psychic intel, hot off the presses. This is so good. So good that I cried. I cried when this came in. It's so good. So I tuned into Spirit today because it's a midway point, halfway through March. I did a March preview event, so I thought I would check in, see how those predictions are cooking, see what's coming up, see if anything has changed. And yes, there are a few changes, and they're good. They're good. It's so good. But first, real quick, if you want to fix your algorithm, if you want to keep seeing me on your FYP, you got to like, comment, watch to the end of the video, do all the good things, okay? All right, here we go. So the first big change that I've seen is the volatile energies I felt at the beginning of the month have simmered down. And that's fantastic news because it was those energies and the culmination of those energies that I was seeing that would potentially culminate in some violent acts. And that energy is shifting, which I love. The reason those have shifted is a couple different things. First of all, they've shifted because those in power are losing their power. And so as people rise up against the people in power, if these two powers are of equal force or one is much greater than the other, that's what lends to violence. And that's where things get really volatile and really icky. And so what's happening instead is those in positions of political power are dwindling, or their power is draining. It is going down. And that is happening as we, the people, gain our power. And that's fantastic because the only way fascism thrives is if the leaders have all the power and the people have none. And that is not what's happening here. That has never been what's happening here, as we've always had more power than we realized. And now people are waking up and realizing that and taking to the streets and protesting. And we are seeing evidence of those protests and boycotts starting to work. So that means the power is shifting to the people even more and even faster. And it is fantastic. Okay, so now for the other change that made me cry. So I made a recent video, it went viral, where I talked about, I think it's about to go down this month, largely because what was in that preview, which by the way, it's still up, you can get the link in bio. But because I was very specifically seeing those volatile, violent energies coming to a head through potential military action to remove the regime. So that is what's changed. It doesn't mean it's gone, that's not still a potential, still necessary, that might still eventually be in the works and necessary to remove them. But the energy behind it is different. And I'm going to cry again. So again, like I said, the energy of that was that we have to really bring out the big guns to fight this power. And so it could get real ugly, could get real messy. That has shifted, number one. Number two, there was a whole lot that was brought through in that preview session where Spirit said very specifically, don't be afraid of whatever violent acts may happen here and around the world, because we know lots is going on, lots around the world. The people who are engaged in those actions are playing out their karma. And it's ultimately for a positive purpose because they're being given the opportunity in this life to basically fight on the good guy's side, to basically clear lifetimes of war and violent trauma and karma, and do it as we are rising up against oppressors and we are rising up to instill something better than what we've had before. So it was a very positive, beautiful way to look at what's unfolding around the world. And that's the big thing. That's the big thing that made me cry. So, here come the chills. So we do see military protests this weekend that were planned in DC and around the world. And in particular, I saw a video, I can't remember what city this was in, but I've reposted it, where the servicemen and women, retired, present, etc., they came together and they were retaking their oath. And they were swearing their oath to the Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that's, oh, do you feel the chills? That's when it hit me. I'm going to start crying again. They are doing more than clearing their war karma. They are clearing the karma of all wars, all violence, and they are repaving. It's like they're creating an entirely new blueprint for humanity and for the world. It has been divide and conquer and war and colonize and all these terrible things throughout known recorded history. And that has required army and force and physicality. And that's the toxic masculine. That is what is dying. And as these beautiful people took their oath, I saw that what's happening now, it really is a shift in every area of government, of human life, of how we live together in communities, of how we people, of how we human. And this retaking of the oath was so powerful and symbolic, and it was like a representation of the energy of how the energy of the people is shifting and how we're doing things different. We're no longer moving through the world by force, and we're no longer blindly or, getting, I don't want to say blindly like people are idiots, but getting caught up in this idea of force and we have to and we must, we're not getting like riled up into the intensity that leads to war and leads to violence. It was almost as if they were doing a symbolic laying down of arms. It was saying the only reason that militaries should be used is for protection, is for the good, is for the betterment of all mankind. We are here as servants. And it's like this image of like knight in shining armor, not in the sense that we're going to go in these crusades and we're going to kill innocent people, but we are here to protect the realm. Now, the even more beautiful thing about this is going to spread. It already has spread. And we're seeing what's been going on in Ukraine as sort of the initial thing that has shifted the balance of power, that people are thinking about war differently. They're not getting caught up in the propaganda. They're not justifying it along with their leaders. We're saying, hey, this isn't right. And we as a people should not still be doing this. So not only is that a beautiful change in and of itself, something we absolutely want to see, and it's so incredible, but it does change a couple of predictions for the month of March. Like I said, number one, I don't really see that military removal as solid as I saw it initially. So that's a good thing. Doesn't mean it isn't going to happen. Doesn't mean it isn't necessary, but it doesn't have the same edge, the same sort of scary intensity that I felt before. So that's number one. Number two, maybe I don't love this one as much, but it is what it is. I very specifically saw in that March event, I saw Republican lawmakers, people in the cabinet being loaded into the paddy wagon. Live to see it, love to see it. However, that feels less solid than it did before. Now, again, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I absolutely believe that it is going to happen, and it must happen. They've broken how many laws at this point? It will happen, but I'm not seeing that as solid for March anymore. And that's okay. And that's a good thing, because as the intensity dies down, we no longer have to fight fire with fire. They are just becoming weaker and weaker and weaker, that they're fizzling out, and it's not going to be as hard. It's not going to be as hard to like win in court, put them in jail. We might not have to have this big, forceful, dramatic removal, as fun as that would be to see. Mwah. It might come out in other ways, and it might take more time. So overall, guys, everything is on track. It's so exciting. The power is just going to continue to shift. It's going to continue to shift as more people rise up, as more people realize that we actually have the power, and as all those aspects realize that they are cooked, it's just going to keep getting better. Okay, love it.